Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Tautronic Sound Liberty 92. These are a pair of TWS wireless buds, which are budget and sell for under 40 bucks, packing a slightly larger than average driver size of 13 millimeters, claiming to give us a bit more enhanced bass, as well as a wider soundstage. Other specs include an IPX8 waterproof rating. You can use it when going to the gym, when it's raining, when you're showering, and it should still survive. It uses, of course, the latest Bluetooth 5.0. However, it doesn't have, say, Qualcomm's aptX. It does include codecs such as AAC and SBC support out of the box. Now, packaging contents are pretty simple. We have just the user manual and quick start guide, along with a charging cable, which is using the modern USB Type-C. Always nice to see. And this does support quick charging. So 5 minutes of charging will give you up to an hour or so of playback. And then we have just the case and the buds themselves. So taking a closer look at the design of the Sound Liberty 92s, I have to say that it looks and feels more expensive than the price would suggest. Even though it is made out of a polycarbonate plastic, it feels very high quality and doesn't really creak or cringe when you're holding it. It actually feels rather solid and weighty in the hands. The bottom here features just a Type-C port for charging, and then the door here is held magnetically, so it opens and closes with a satisfying click. We have actually an LED notification light here that will glow. Here's a quick size comparison with Apple's AirPods. You can see the casing is a tad larger, but not by too much. This is still very compact and easy to slide into a pocket or into jeans. In terms of battery life and endurance, the buds themselves last around 5 hours on a single charge, pretty average, and the case itself provides up to 25 hours. So combined, there's about 30 hours when you're on the road. Now, these are also magnetic, so they can be attached with a satisfying click, and then the design of the buds themselves, as we can see, is still kind of reminiscent of the AirPods in terms of having a semi-open design, so you can easily pop it in and remove it from your ears, but the downside is it doesn't have a silicone tip, which means that the noise isolation will also be a little lower, but the comfort, in my testing at least, was very high. Only slight difference here is there's a bit more of a notch or a protrusion on the Sound Liberties in terms of housing some of the circuitry and battery, versus on the AirPods it's a bit more streamlined, but again, it gives it a bit more of an angular shape that's slightly more distinctive. I actually appreciate from Tautronic's part in order to not make it look like a complete copy, but rather something a bit different. It's also a bit easier to pick up and hold as a result of. The front here is also quite different in terms of having more of an angular kind of prism-like shape, and the top component features a touch sensor which you can use to play and pause the music, and also to adjust the volume. That's great to see. You can tap once, in fact, to raise it higher or lower, double tap to play and pause, and also for skip track commands. Now, another thing I kind of like about these is, even though it looks like jet black at times, if you point it at the light in different angles, it actually has a slight chrome accent to it, but rather kind of shimmers when you shine it against the light. It's very reflective. It's quite beautiful to look at. Overall, I am a fan of the finish that they did on these. As far as the audio quality and performance is concerned, overall I give this 2 thumbs up, in the sense that the larger drivers do make a difference in terms of packing a bit more bass compared to other semi-open designs which have a shape like this. Overall, if you're listening to tracks, especially ones with drum beats or EDM type music, it definitely, you can feel it as those beats hit in. With that being said, I still wouldn't say that they're the most bass heavy pair of buds. That's simply because traditional buds, which have a silicone tip, can get a tighter seal. Overall, it's still a very satisfactory experience. The mids and highs are also very clean, so there's no hints of really distortion even if you pause the music or turn the volume down. For things like acoustic tracks, if you're listening to singers, it all becomes a very enjoyable experience. I think sounds better than the price would suggest. Overall, you get more nuanced and clean sound compared to, say, the Redmi AirDots, so this is definitely a step up. The latency is not the lowest in the world compared to, say, Qualcomm aptX compatible buds, but all in all, it's also not bad. For things like watching YouTube videos, if the video and audio were still synced together quite well, I could play and pause. The left and right sides were also connected, didn't really get out of sync with each other, walk around the room with the device a little further away, and things were still pretty smooth. So overall, I think it's above average there in terms of connectivity and stability, although it's not the lowest latency in the world. So if you're doing things like playing back games, there'll be a bit more of a split-second delay between the frames versus the audio coming in. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Tautronic Sound Liberty 92. For a budget pair of buds, I really appreciate the details in terms of the hardware that impressed me the most about this model that you often won't find for similar pairs at this low cost. It doesn't have the most features in the world, doesn't have, say, active noise cancellation, but the performance is really solid, and again, has a bit more bass in my testing compared to the regular AirPods, so that's definitely pleasant, offers really clean sound, especially for mids and trebles. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's the Sound Liberty 92.